Welcome to Shoot the Hostage. I am Dan.
And I'm Sarah, and we're a movie show that covers 8 films each season, tied together by a central theme. This season, the theme is folklore.
We cover everything from explosive action to spine-tingling horror and everything in between. And as a heads up, we don't hold back on coarse language or specific plot details, so listener discretion is advised.
This podcast is brought to you by our amazing patrons, without whom the show would not be possible. If you'd like to help out and access all of our bonus content, including new reviews and rap shows, all the relevant links will be in the show notes.
And if you're not a Patreon person, but you would still like to help out, you could rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. Tell a friend and get them to rate and review us as well. Or come follow us and interact with us on social media, mostly Instagram, X, Threads, TikTok, all at sch_pod. Without further delay, here's this week's episode. We hope you enjoy it and stick around. Candyman 2021. I'm looking around because to make sure there's no reflections anywhere, because I'm definitely going to be saying that. I only need to say it another 4 times, don't I?
Oh, we're definitely going to say that more than 5 times.
There's a mirror up there. And oh my God, the mirror that I'm looking into is reflecting a skull. Oh no, this is not a good sign. This is not a good sign.
This is the best sign.
Okay, well, I can't say it anymore. You're going to have to say it because I've got a mirror right there.
I'll say it then. Candyman.
Okay, don't be too liberal with it. You never know. So, Candyman 2021, not the original, 1992, not the sequel from 1995.
Or the sequel from 1999.
Yeah, right. What are they called? Farewell to the Flesh and
Day of the Dead?
Day of the Dead. Yeah, we're doing a 2021 version, which is a very recent movie.
A very divisive movie.
Well, is it?
Yes.
Okay, right. Well, we'll get into that then, because that sounds super interesting. Something I want to put a pin in.
Oh, some people hate this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Are those people called idiots? Are they called people that are watching something else called Transformers?
I don't think anybody's called that, because that's a really long-winded name.
Because objectively, this is it's not a perfect movie.
It's not, no.
But I would say objectively, it's a fucking good one.
Agreed. I've seen this 4 times now.
Okay, great. Well, me 3.
You're going to start the Me 3 movement.
But you are a huge fan of the original movie, right? The 1992 Candyman.
Bernard Rose's Candyman is easily in my top 10 of all time.
Right.
I feel like I'm saying that a lot this season. This is what happens when you let me go ham and just choose whatever I want.
This is your season.
Yeah.
This is all about what you wanted to watch and
it's
what
all
you
about
wanted
me.
to talk about. It's all about you. Let's just talk about Sarah. It's all about Sarah. Yeah, so I'm interested to see where this conversation is going to go from the perspective of the original being one of your favourite movies. I think, obviously, it goes without saying that we're spoiling this. We've already said it up top, but this is a sequel to that movie.
Yes. I mean, a lot of people call it like a spiritual sequel or a requel, but it's a sequel.
It's not. How can you say a spiritual? It's literally a sequel. It's
literally. Yeah, they even... I mean, a lot of people call it a sequel to the first movie, but they even kind of adopt some of the lore that was brought in the sequels.
Okay.
So this is just sort of more linear. More the linear story, to me anyway.
Well, I really, really enjoy how this link. I think it's super clever how it links back to the original movie. I watched the original when it came out in the 90s. Enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty creepy, actually. It was quite difficult to sort of scare me as a kid because I'd seen the things that no child should see in terms of films.
Yeah, clarify quickly.
Yeah, just in terms of like Hellraiser when I was 3 or 5, whatever.
More Clive Barker.
But yeah, exactly, more Clive Barker. So, and I was always fascinated with Clive Barker's works. Mentioned Hellraiser already. He just seems to create these worlds that are really interesting, dark, and don't realise until you get a bit older that there's much more going on there under the surface. So yeah, huge fan of the original, loved it. Last time I watched it in hospital about a few months before this one came out, actually, in 2021. And that was really good. creepy vibe. Best way to watch a horror movie, in my opinion.
Not like, don't go out and injure yourself just so you can watch a horror movie in a hospital.
Well, I would hope that would go without saying. But I don't really have any memory. I'm sure that I've seen maybe the second one at some point. I'm not sure about the third one, but I don't remember anything about them. So when you say there are sort of threads even from those movies included, that's fascinating that they would go to those lengths. You mentioned Clive Barker.
Yeah, I mentioned Clive Barker a lot.
You do mention Clive Barker a lot. I'm actually wearing one of your hand-me-down T-shirts.
Oh yeah, you've got my Hellraiser one on.
Got your Hellraiser one on. I'm trying to get into the Cliveness of it.
Yeah.
And
it's beneficial that we're the same size in T-shirts.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's Hellraiser, mostly what I know Clive Barker from. Obviously, I don't even know if I knew that he wrote the original short story for this until, God, years and years later.
Okay.
I have seen Lord of Illusions, which
I
probably like more than most, I would say.
It's fun.
Enjoy that movie. And I think maybe that's... Oh, I'm forgetting Nightbreed.
How can you forget Nightbreed? That is also in my top 10 of all time.
Yeah, so you're a Clive head.
Is that what?
You're a big Barker face.
I don't know if that's going to take off. I like what you're trying to do. I don't know if it's going to catch on. No, huge fan. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say like, oh, I haven't read everything he's ever written. Yeah. When I say I'm a big Clive Barker fan, I'm a big Clive Barker horror fan because he did sort of diverge from that.
Did he?
He sort of moved more into like fantasy and sort of kind of turned his back on horror a little bit. He's always kept a finger in, as they say.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've got some memory of hearing about him. Like he was just putting on plays and stuff with his mates, I think I heard. And they needed to earn some money. So he was like, oh, fuck it, I better write a book or something. And he just wrote it and ended up being a really great writer. I haven't read any of his stuff.
Have you not? Okay.
No. But what else is there? I'm forgetting a Clive Barker movie. Is Rawhead Rex a Clive Barker?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, there's that. You showed me a DVD earlier called
Dread. There's Books of Blood. There's a bunch of like lesser known stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the big three, to my mind anyway, are Candyman, Hellraiser, and Nightbreed.
Right. Okay.
Nightbreed to a lesser extent because it's more of a cult classic.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would possibly quite rightly argue that it's not a great film. The theatrical cut was definitely butchered in the editing, and people went to great lengths to put out a more restored version.
Yeah. That's a fascinating movie.
It really is.
I quite like that one too, because what I alluded to earlier about saying that I think he creates these really interesting, dense and grimy, lived-in, visceral worlds that are fascinating.
Yeah.
Whether it's fantasy, or usually almost always fantasy, I guess.
And really, really dark.
Yeah.
He goes to places that you wouldn't necessarily expect.
Yeah. But I guess with the Nightbreed and Hellraiser, I'm guessing they're sort of more straight adaptations of the original works, whereas Candyman is more of an interpretation of the original short story, isn't it? It's not. There are quite a few changes from what I understand.
It's definitely a departure. The structure remains the same, largely. Obviously, the story was in, I want to say, Books of Blood, Volume 6 in the UK. It was published in a magazine first, before anything. And in the States, I want to say it was in Books of Blood Volume 6 became In the Flesh. So depending on where you are, it might be somewhere else, might be somewhere different. But the short story itself is called The Forbidden. It's set in Liverpool, obviously Clive Barker's hometown. But we won't hold that against him.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the original story focused. Well, there was no racial element, which is the most important change, I think.
Well, it's what Candyman is. Candyman
definitely.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Now. So it's quite a departure, I guess. It takes that element of saying a name in a mirror and this baddie appears.
Well, that element was an addition by Bernard Rose as well.
Oh, but what was it then?
Candyman, well, basically the whole thing, the whole story, the crux of it boils down to the dangers of not believing in urban legends, not learning from them, not kind of using them as the cautionary tales that they are, so to speak. And in the story, Candyman would just appear. He could sort of sense when people didn't believe in him, and that's how he found his victims. So Bernard Rose was the one who added the element of repeating the name 5 times in the mirror.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you probably, being a visual medium and adapting a very short story, you need to add a shitload of stuff, don't you? Of course you do. But yeah, that's interesting. The mirror aspect, maybe we'll get into this in the film as well, to introduce that. I don't know, man. There's a lot to me that feels like, I don't want to say accident, but a huge collaborative effort in the 90s to bring together this, what's ended up being an absolute classic and the top of everyone's lists in terms of horror, and one of the most iconic horror villains of all time.
One of the most unique as well.
Yeah.
Because around that time, 1992, everything was a slasher still.
Yep.
The villains, I mean, he's interesting in that his name is also the title, which wasn't really the case anywhere else. Like, there's no film called Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, even when you're a kid, you go, oh, let's watch Freddy 2 or whatever. Yeah. It's not called that.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think most kids say that. That might just be you.
Yeah, well me and my mates did. We turned out all right.
Well, Southend was a different story.
One of them's in prison.
Well, it's making sense now.
That's a joke. They're not. If you're listening, you're not in prison, are you? I don't know, he might be. I haven't spoken to him in 20 years.
Let's just assume he is. That's canon now.
Yeah.
The most important change, as we've already said, the racial element was introduced by Bernard Rose, is that the story was more about the differences in the class system in like working class England. So to sort of transplant that to Cabrini Green in Chicago, which I hadn't realised was a real place. I don't know. That was genius. I can't imagine it any other way now.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree. And I heard that also Tony Todd had quite a lot to do with the backstory specifically of the title character, Candyman.
He is Candyman. You can't convince me otherwise.
Daniel Robitaille.
Yeah.
I heard that Tony Todd just came up with all of that stuff.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
But that blows my mind, and that's why I kind of say, like, it's a huge collaborative effort that just kind of accidentally became a really
perfect storm of ideas.
Yeah. An influential piece that a lot of people love, quite rightly.
And by all accounts, Clive Barker was really receptive to the changes as well.
Yeah.
So just makes me like him even more.
Yeah. No, it's really great. It definitely laid the groundwork, and I think probably sort of moving towards the movie that we're here to talk about.
We should, shouldn't we?
We need to get her at some point. I'm sure you could talk about Candyman 92 all day.
How many hours have you got?
Yeah. And maybe we'll get to Candyman 92 one day.
Oh, yeah, I'll make sure of it.
and Nightbreed. And Rawhead Rex. And Dread. And we're definitely going to get to Hellraiser.
Yes. Hell yes.
Should we do a Police Academy situation where, we did Police Academy 1 to 7?
And watch all of the Hellraiser movies. No, I don't know if I've got the strength.
That'd be a 6-hour episode. Yeah, but to bring it back to 2021, the thing that I think there are many, many things that I enjoy about this, but I think the thing that I really enjoyed the most is how it's a sequel, how it's adding to the lore, how everything that they add is very purposeful and speaks to the themes.
It's a film that very much respects the predecessor.
Yeah, and adds to it.
Yeah.
I think it enhances. For me, I haven't gone back and watched the original since I've seen this yet, but I feel like when I do, I'm going to have this in mind also, and it's only going to add to the experience.
I think so. I think it will, yeah.
Obviously, this is a folklore season, so the folklore element, which you touched on earlier with in the original short story, and not that, what was it? They turn up when they don't believe the folklore. What I really like about the use of that in this movie is when they're describing the events of the first movie, but it's not quite accurate, and people are describing something that's not quite the way it went down in the first one. So that's interesting how just the retelling of stories and these folklores get twisted and turned. So even that is kind of in keeping with the central idea of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 2021, we saw this at the cinema. It was one of the
I saw it twice at the
You
cinema.
did see it twice at cinema,
Yeah.
didn't you? Yeah. It was. I think it got delayed. I think it was one of the COVID casualties
it was.
of movies that got pushed back a little bit. So when it opened in 2021, don't think we were back to full swing. Everyone's going to see movies again yet. So it probably suffered. But for a budget of 25 million, which is not bad for
I mean,
for America.
Yeah,
that's good.
You say it suffered, but I mean, Nia DaCosta, I can't imagine it's been beaten since, but she was the first black female director to have a film open at #1 at the box office.
Really?
Yeah. I know, depressing, isn't it? 2021.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But great, well deserved.
Mm.
And it made 77 million at the worldwide box office. So I think that's good. I think given the time that it came out, not many people are going to see movies. I think just to end up in the profit, I think it was a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. It, like you say, it built on the legacy, but also sort of had the benefit of being able to market itself on the legacy of the original as well. So it had that going for it. But like you say, allowing for COVID, that's great.
Yeah, I totally agreed. And notwithstanding that, she made a fucking good movie.
She did.
Well. So
yeah.
Even if this lost money, you would think that there would be conversations about sequels or whatever. And I've got my own thoughts on that.
Okay.
So, crew-wise, writer, director Nia DaCosta. Most recently, she's made The Marvels MCU movie, which is a Marvel movie, less a Nia DaCosta movie.
Yeah.
But I hope she got paid well, and I thought that movie was fine.
I thought that movie was fine as well. It did absolutely atrociously at the box office, and I really, really hope that her career doesn't suffer as a result.
I was going to say I don't think it will. I really hope it won't suffer. But
I like what she brought to it, but you could tell it had maybe been butchered in the edit.
Yeah, totally. But it's a Marvel movie. I think now directors entering that they all know that they're not going to make their own 100% their own movie.
Yeah,
there's going to be some compromises.
I always assume it's sort of like a one for you, one for me kind of a deal. Like, I'll do this for you if you fund this.
Yeah, it probably is that.
Which is the smart way to negotiate.
Hopefully, you get paid as good money as you can get for that one, and then the next one can be more of a passion project kind of thing. Writing credit also goes to Jordan Peele and Win Rosenfeld.
Jordan Peele almost directed.
Yeah, so he was initially going to direct it, right? And he wrote his version. He wrote a treatment of it, and it wasn't until Nia DaCosta came on and she had her own ideas of where it was going. I think he just went, "That's great. Over to you. You take care of this," which was absolutely the right call.
Yeah, good man.
Because I love Jordan Peele. We spoke about him a lot in our Nope episode, and God, we just sycophantic, sickening hearing us praise him so much. But he's a really talented, great filmmaker. But I'm really glad that he didn't make this.
Same. I think Nia DaCosta's got a really interesting and really beautiful visual style. You can see Jordan Peele's fingerprints throughout the script, especially some of the more humorous moments, which I thought were really unusual, but welcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, she definitely made it her own.
Yeah, she did. And from what I read, the ideas that she brought to it, I'll mention it now because it looks sort of like organically getting there anyway, but apparently in the original treatment, Jordan Peele had Helen, what's her name? Lyle?
Oh, Helen Lyle. Yeah,
Helen Lyle as the main villain.
Yeah, I think I read that.
Because at the end of the first one, she sort of turns up in a mirror, right?
So
the implication being that she's now a part of this Candyman thing. So Jordan Peele's version, Helen Lyle was going to be the main focus, the main villain. But then when Nia DaCosta came on, she was like, no, fuck that. Why don't we do like a hive situation? And I'm guessing if she said that to me, I'd be like, a hive? Oh my God, you're a fucking G. Yeah, bees. Yeah. Remember the bees?
Not the bees.
Not the bees. Yeah, so, and then that's what I heard that she brought to it. So I'm guessing the conversation sort of went a bit like that. I read it, it's great, but what about we do the hive thing? Brilliant. Yeah. Let's do a rewrite. You're hired. Yeah, so Jordan Peele obviously retains his writing credit. DOP I'm going to mention because this film is beautiful. John Guleserian?
Sure.
I fucked that up. I'm sorry, John.
Apologies.
Editor Katrin Hedstrom, who deserves a shout as well. And score by Robert Ikai Aubrey Lowe.
This is painful.
And
I'm glad you're pronouncing all these.
yeah, I'm just saving you, don't worry. But he's also known as Lichens and quite a well-known musical presence, I guess.
Well, let me just stop you right there.
Okay.
The music in this, we've talked about the original a little bit. One of the things I love most about the 1992 film is that insane, I don't have the adequate words to describe it. It gives me chills just thinking about it, not even listening to it. That Philip Glass score, it's one of the most memorable horror scores to me. There are a handful and that is up there. And I was so skeptical when this film was announced. And then I saw Jordan Peele's Attachment and then a trailer came out and I was like, okay, I'll reserve judgment.
Yeah.
And then that music kicks in. Fuck.
I love the music in this. I hear where you're coming from with the original. I do prefer the music in this. But they're
very different.
It's perhaps maybe a nostalgia thing. Like I love the original, but the score is never anything that really stood out to me. Sorry. But the score in this, I think, is incredible. But apparently he's a super well-known composer, musician person.
Okay.
So I'll probably look up more of his stuff. But the score in this, I thought, was just incredible.
It fits so perfectly as well.
Perfectly, yeah. Cast then. So obviously Yahya Abdul-Mateen II plays Anthony McCoy.
Sure does.
He does. He plays a baddie in Aquaman 1 and 2.
Aquaman.
You heard of these?
like his name is Mr. Aquaman.
Yeah. I've seen the first one.
So have I, regrettably.
Yeah. I guess the only question you're asking is, does he get his shirt off in the second movie?
I would prefer that.
Yeah, me too. He was in Ambulance, which was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
But he was good. Matrix Resurrection.
Oh, yeah.
Watchmen, which I keep going on you about. You need to watch.
I didn't like the original film, so I've not been in a rush to watch the series. You put your phone down.
Yeah.
As if to say, right, stop there. We're going to have words.
No, I don't give a shit what you think about the original film. It's a Zack Snyder movie. I think it's good, but it is a Zack Snyder movie and it's very literal and there's not really much room. Anyway, let's not get into that conversation. The reboot or the TV show is just incredible.
Oh, I didn't realise you'd seen it.
Yes, I saw it a few years ago. It's so good. That's why I keep telling you to watch it.
Right, okay.
I know that you will like it.
Is it a standalone miniseries or is it an ongoing thing?
It's a standalone miniseries.
Okay.
You can watch it start to finish.
And it's a complete story.
Complete story. I think you will love it. Honestly,
okay.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't make you waste 10 hours of your life watching a crappy TV show.
I don't know. You've been known to do elaborate pranks before.
True. But you know what I'm like with TV shows? I don't necessarily like to get invested unless I know that it's going to be good. So I wouldn't recommend it to you.
Good point.
It's Christmas. Let's watch it.
Okay.
Actually, it's not Christmas anymore. It's January.
No, it's probably like March by the time this comes out. I don't know. Yeah. We're so far ahead.
Let's pull back the curtain. So yeah, he was in Us.
Yeah.
Pretty new to the scene, I think.
Relatively.
I don't think I really noticed him until Watchmen. Teyonah Parris plays Brianna, who is Anthony's other half.
She's great.
She's really good.
She's great. I hadn't really noticed her in much stuff until more recently. I believe she was in Dear White People, which is, I want to say, a Justin Simien movie, which I really enjoyed and was successful enough to have a somewhat mediocre Netflix series based on it. And I'm amazed you haven't seen it because, what's her name? Tessa Thompson is the main character.
Oh, let's watch that.
Yeah, I thought you would say that.
Yes, please.
But yeah, she was in They Cloned Tyrone recently, which we both really enjoyed.
Loved They Cloned Tyrone.
Yeah. And obviously The Marvels.
The Marvels, yeah.
And WandaVision.
Yes, I've written down If Beale Street Could Talk, although I haven't seen that yet, and it's kind of on my list to get around to at some point. Obviously, Point Blank with Anthony Mackie.
Obviously.
And our mate Frank.
Is that the Joe Lynch one?
Yep.
Okay.
the fantastic, always incredible, one of the best voices going, Coleman Domingo plays William Burke.
I feel like I talk about people's voices a lot, but I don't know. I like fall in love with people's voices a lot of the time. And I really want this to get back to Coleman Domingo. Please start reading audiobooks.
Yeah.
I would be all over that.
I would as well. Yeah, I think you're onto something there. He is in Assassination Nation.
Oh yeah.
And Euphoria. So I guess he's got that. Who's that? Who's the person that's responsible for those? Sam
Levinson.
Sam Levinson. So I guess there's a Levinson connection there.
Euphoria is. I like it. It's controversial. Sam Levinson is quite a controversial figure, but there is an episode, just a standalone between season episode, that's just an hour of him and Zendaya talking, mostly just in a cafe. And it is so compelling because of just the both of them. They could be reading the phone book and I would buy the shit out of it.
Yeah.
He's great.
I started watching that show with you, so I don't think it's really...
It's not for you.
It's just all a bit bleak and like, why do I want to spend 18 hours in this world?
Being miserable.
God, yeah, a little bit. It's a little bit grimy.
But it's so pretty.
Agreed. But we're not here to talk about Euphoria, as I'm sure you would love to do. I first came across that sounds weird. I first noticed Common Domingo in The Walking Dead, actually. That's that spin-off show called...
Fear the Walking Dead, was it?
That's it, yeah. And immediately, as soon as he's on screen, who's this guy?
What a presence.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's easily the best thing about that show. Without Remorse as well, he's in, which I don't remember. I remember quite liking that movie, but I think people thought it was toilet. I liked it.
Was that a Michael B. Jordan thing?
Yes.
I haven't seen that, but I'm aware of it.
I think it might have been, one of these spy type Jack Reacher around.
Like a Tom Clancy something.
Yeah, a Clancy boy or something. Nathan Stewart Jarrett. I missed the T. It's a silent T, all right? He obviously was in Misfits.
Yeah. He's in a film that's coming out soon that will be out by the time this episode airs, I believe, called Femme, that I'm very interested in seeing.
Yeah, you showed me that last night, actually. That's on Curzon Home, right?
It will be, yes.
Getting around to that at Christmas, or 2 months ago if you're listening to this. Vanessa Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Plays Anne-Marie McCoy. Oh, spoiler.
Yep.
Candyman 92. Obviously. Oh, another spoiler. New Jack City, I've written down. God, I haven't seen New Jack City since it came out, I don't think. Last couple, Michael Hargrove, going to mention because he plays Sherman Fields.
Okay,
this version's, the 2021 versions of kind of the main Candyman for most of this movie. I
mean, really, this film should be called Candymen.
That would make more sense because in my head I was thinking Candymans. Like an alien situation.
I'm always struck by like how you should pluralize things sometimes. Like, is it Bigfoots or Big Feet?
Well, this is the question.
Yeah.
This is the question I'm asking right now.
It should be called Candyman. That would differentiate it when you're looking it up online as well.
Yeah, because it's a sequel, so it's confusing if you're calling it the same thing as the original, because you think it's a reboot, but it's not. It's just definitely a sequel. So Candyman would have been a better title, but also a bit of a spoiler, and I'm kind of glad they didn't call it that, because I was constantly surprised by the new elements that they brought to this.
And also, if we're going with the Hive theory, also not 100% accurate, because... So this is one of my few gripes with this film that I'm going to get out of the way straight away, because I love this film, so I'm going to get the negative. There are a couple of plot holes to my mind, and one of the things that annoyed me is, and it's funny that you say that Jordan Peele's original script featured Helen Lyle more, because the one thing that sort of got to me was how each generation sort of has this different version of Candyman, just to continue the legend. Well, Helen Lyle kind of became that at the end of the first one, but she's not really mentioned in terms of being part of that hive. Not really.
Yeah. So your issue is kind of that they maybe ignored the final few frames of the original?
Yeah, because the first one ends with I want to say Xander Berkeley.
John Connor's stepfather.
Yes,
yeah,
that guy. Yeah. She's dead at this point, and he's kind of going, "Oh, Helen, Helen," like in the mirror, and he summons her because he says her name 5 times.
He says Helen 5 times.
Yeah,
it's not the same ring to it, does it?
No,
no. I'm glad that they didn't include that, because that it's. Obviously, what this film is doing is it's all about systemic racism, cultural appropriation. So I think
centering a white woman again.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
the wrong
that would
move.
Absolutely be a mistake. I'm on board with that as a creative decision.
Yeah.
It was absolutely the right call. But just the pedant in me was slightly annoyed by that.
Yeah, I totally understand. If that was maybe fresher in my mind, I maybe have had more of an issue with that.
Okay.
Having said that, she is a presence in this movie. It's not like her character is ignored.
Well, we get those fabulous sort of shadow puppets.
Yeah, you get the shadow puppets, which are retelling that original story, and it's really super. Because again, this movie, 91 minutes, snappy. You've got to get in and get out.
Yes, so pacey.
And maybe that's what my issue is slightly with this film.
Do you prefer? Do you think it should be longer?
Well, maybe we'll get to it.
That's not something you ever say.
I know. It's not that I wanted it to be longer. It's that I wanted a little bit more of a character. But we'll get to Carmen Domingo in a bit. I enjoy that she has a presence in this movie, but she's not the focus. And I think even the fact that people are misremembering her story as part of the folklore stuff, I think is a really good choice. But then also I think having her story be remembered more than the Daniel Robitaille stuff, and as we learned, the Sherman stuff from the 70s and all of the other Candymans,
because the black people are sort of being erased from history.
Exactly. So for people to be remembering her story is super relevant, and also feeds into William Burke's motivation at the end of the movie. I think we could have got more from that and trying to understand what he's doing there.
I had a different reading on that. So my reading on it was, this is a major spoiler. Obviously, if you've been listening, you know our podcast is chock full of spoilers, but I'm going to sort of skip to the third act already. When Anthony's mother, Vanessa Williams, we'll get to that again, don't worry, is sort of telling him about the original events that led to him being kidnapped as a child, she sort of says that the people of Cabrini Green agreed never to speak of it. So my theory was that it wasn't necessarily that the Candyman character was being erased, like it wasn't like a black erasure sort of thing. It was more that they'd made this pact not to speak of it, so as not to condemn them all, to kind of continue this curse.
Okay.
And that by telling her story, that was sort of masking it a little bit. That was their explanation.
So that would definitely, that definitely would explain why the hell they wouldn't speak about the original Candyman folklore or whatever. But that wouldn't explain why the Sherman character is not known to people. And that's maybe why that character was introduced.
Yeah, and a lot of people consider that to be sort of another plot hole, because in the original version, I'm going to get so deep into this, a lot of people have sort of said, well, a handful of people online, a handful of nerds like me online.
You've been on Reddit.
Have said, r/pedantry. No. They've wondered why the Sherman character is tied to Coleman Domingo's character, which predates the events of 1992.
Yeah.
So why, when Helen Lyle was researching Candyman, he wasn't spoken about, but Daniel Robitaille was. She sort of went way back in history and then ignored everything in the middle.
My guess is that she found a Candyman, had she not
and just stopped.
Died in a fire, maybe she would have come across this other Sherman. Maybe it was just more readily available because Daniel Robitaille was a painter, so he was producing art. So maybe there was still some of his paintings left over or whatever. I can't remember the facts of how she came across Daniel Robitaille.
I mean, the whole thing is tied to art, isn't it?
Yeah.
From the first movie to now. I mean, not just that he was a painter, but that she was sort of doing a thesis on graffiti.
Yeah.
Effectively. And there's so much cool artwork, like that image of the open mouth. It haunts me to this day, and I'm going to stop talking about the 1992 version now. Carry on.
I think it's unavoidable. I think because this is a straight sequel. For me, the perfect way to watch this movie would be 1 and 2. Now that we've been talking about it, I don't feel as strongly about that as I did before.
Okay.
Because you're pointing out these things that is maybe ignored from the first one. In my opinion,
look, these are such minor complaints, and I am really being a stickler here.
I think this movie is a near masterpiece.
Okay.
I love it. I think it's really just so suck you in. What's the word for that? Just it starts and it just grabs me immediately, and I'm consumed by it. Yeah, but it's not perfect. I think it's, if there's a couple of things that could have been changed or whatever, I think it would have been a 5-star movie for me.
Okay.
But I remember when we saw this at the cinema, actually, when it first starts and they're showing the logos of the various production companies, they're all mirrored. And I remember thinking, is this a projection
A
issue?
lot of people thought the same thing. Yeah.
A lot of people stomping out to the projection booth and saying, oh, there's a problem with the print or whatever.
Didn't I dig you in the ribs at the time and just go, hey, clever?
Probably. And I was like, what? They've put it on backwards. Why have they done that? But yeah, obviously that is the mirror thing. So.
Wap Yek Nom Productions.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you said that to me when we were watching it the other night, and I went, "What?
Monkey paw."
Of course, yeah. So, I mean, right from the off, we're making creative, interesting decisions here.
Love it.
And also, because it's the logos of the production companies, probably quite a lot of ego involved with some of those. I don't know who was involved. I'm not saying anyone specifically from those companies have got egos or care about that stuff, but some of them would be. I bet there's a load of people that when they're making a film, they're like, make sure my logo's first, or it's got to be legible. 4 seconds. And yeah. So to me, immediately it's going, this is about the experience. This is not.
The art is more important.
The art is more important.
Yeah,
exactly. So I just think that this film is really clever on many, many levels, and immediately that it kind of sort of squared me up for what was to come.
I really enjoyed, just as we're talking about the opening, I really enjoyed that the font of all the names, the title credits, were also designed to look kind of like paper cuts, like shadow puppets.
Oh, right, okay.
Like no detail was spared.
Yeah, no, I missed that one.
I love it.
Oh, interesting.
Unlike, people like James Cameron, who just use fucking papyrus, just use a goddamn free font for the biggest grossing film of all time. Like,
oh, Avatar. I was about to say don't knock James Cameron, but you can knock him for Avatar. If you
yeah.
Like.
I can shit on Avatar all I like.
I've shit on James Cameron since 1995. That's fine.
I don't know. He seems all right, but Avatar can get in the bin.
I mean, yeah. Yes, agreed. Avatar can be in the bin for sure. Let's put it in a bin and then drop it in the ocean in a hilarious feat of irony.
But I do like that they don't. Nothing about this is lazy. Nothing about this is easy. It's to the point where they even create their own font.
Yeah, I feel like every kind of decision was really thought about and considered. Not the script, for example. There's a bunch of things that happen in the beginning of the movie that I guess when you're watching it on rewatch, like when Anthony meets Common Domingo, he says, "Can I give you a hand?"
I loved that on second watch. That's so good.
Yeah, right. And you're like, oh my god, that's really clever.
Yeah. Even down to stuff like something you brought up when we last watched it was the first time we see Brianna. She's wearing a yellow and black dress, and the print even looks like pollen.
Yeah. It's
so good.
And they're using words like buzz and swarm, like in different contexts and media and stuff like that. And it's super. Oh, it's just not. And even the body horror stuff, which we'll get to, I'm sure, when he's transforming, it looks kind of like. Ugh. What's the beehive-y stuff called? The holy thing.
Honeycomb.
It was a bit like a honeycomb design thing going on.
It's a tripophobe's nightmare.
Yeah. Oh, the people that hate pattern things on skin.
Like loads of holes.
Yeah, I've seen those TikToks. They are horrible. I want to take it back to the shadow puppets, if I may, just for a moment, because
you may. I'll allow it.
Thank you. I thought that was. There's some really interesting extras on the Blu-ray of Candyman, which I watched in its entirety, start to finish today. And there's a really, really good one. There's a round table, which Common Domingo is the chair of, and they're just having a discussion about Candyman, about the themes, and they're talking about the shadow puppets. One person said it was nice that they didn't show the violence. I think it was Daniel Robitaille stuff specifically, the violence against the black character.
Yeah.
And they were able to do it in a way that is more artistic. It's more, it's telling you what happened.
It's not forcing black people to relive their trauma again.
Exactly. Not reliving that trauma, which I thought was, again, just fucking really well considered and not something I would have picked up on.
And I think if it hadn't been helmed by black filmmakers, that probably wouldn't have played out like it did.
No, I think this would be a different movie.
And, of course.
Yeah. and I really like that a lot. And I think when I thought about it, I was thinking, actually, do we see any black characters subjected to violence by a white person?
Mm-mm.
We see.
Well, no, not on screen.
No,
we don't.
We don't see it, do we?
No.
You're thinking about the final act.
Well, and Sherman at the start.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, it's off screen.
Yeah, because the Sherman stuff is from the point of view of a young William Burke. We see his face.
Well, he's literally swarmed by cops.
Swarmed by police, yeah. And then later on in the third act, when Anthony is murdered by the police, we don't see that either.
No.
So the only time we ever see any violence against a black person, it's by another black person.
Okay.
Which is super interesting. And I think that the shadow puppet stuff was just, it was a kind of a masterstroke, a way of to maybe you've not seen the original. You could watch this and not have seen the original. I think you'd be fine. I think you get way more out of it if you have seen it.
That's something I was going to ask you, actually. Do you think it works as a standalone?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
But I think do watch the original as well.
Yeah,
it's a good movie, and I think you'll get way more out of it. But I do think this works as a standalone. I think that was a genius way of doing that, of telling that story without showing it and forcing people to relive their trauma, as you said. I would really recommend watching some of those extras actually on that Blu-ray. There's a lot of good stuff, deleted scenes, or slightly alternate ending.
I saw the alternate ending. Yeah, I watched that on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. But talking about, we sort of touched on the kills, really. This is a horror movie.
Sure is.
Got to talk about the kills, haven't we?
Yep.
So, who are the first people to get it then? Is it Clive?
I think it's Clive and Jerica.
Is her name Jerica? The Joy Division Jerica?
Yeah.
Okay. I enjoyed that a lot at the cinema.
I know you did.
I was thinking, look, she's wearing a Joy Division t-shirt, and then she even says
love will tear us apart.
Yeah, and then he reconfirms, yeah, we get it. I was like, yeah, okay, we do get it.
Yeah.
But I don't mind.
And you say that as a white Joy Division fan.
Yeah. But yeah, this is after the art display, I don't know, exhibition, that's the word I'm looking for,
yeah.
where Anthony is showcasing some of his work, and he's got his piece that he's put together after his conversation with Colin Domingo's introduced him to the Candyman lore. Now we're caught up.
Well, you forgot about him being stung on the hand.
He got stung on the hand. Yeah, that's right. Now we are definitely caught up. But that's the first kill is after everybody leaves the exhibition. They're in there on their own, Clive and Jerica. And is it Jerica? She's sort of saying, let's say Candyman in the mirror.
Yeah.
And obviously she does. And then that's when Sherman version of Candyman turns up.
Hubris.
Yeah. And I enjoyed those kills. You see the reflection of Sherman in the mirror and he slices her throat.
She
goes
loved
down,
that.
And then Clive is shitting his pants, tries to run away, and he gets dragged back into it with an Achilles. I believe an Achilles hook.
God, don't.
Your favourite.
You know, Achilles tendon stuff is my, as I've said before, it's the worst pun in the world, but Achilles tendon stuff is my Achilles heel.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
It grosses me out more than, fingernail stuff maybe beats that.
Yeah, fingernail stuff you don't enjoy too much either, do you?
I really enjoyed the Jurassic Park nod during that scene. When he's trying to detach himself from Jerica's belt clasp thing, saying, must go faster, must go faster.
Right.
That was a nod to Dr. Ian Malcolm.
That feels super random.
It does, right?
Why are we nodding Jurassic Park? Okay.
I don't know.
I don't listen.
I like it. I love little Easter eggs.
I'm glad that you like it. No, I didn't notice it, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But yeah, kills wise. So you've got the art gallery. You've got the art critic.
Yeah.
Who was maybe that was my favourite. How that was shown anyway.
Okay.
It was maybe the most interesting.
It's pretty subtle.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of as the camera zoomed away, and it's pretty small. Pretty tiny.
And then we've got the school bathroom where children are murdered.
I really enjoyed that because, well, for many reasons. Firstly, teenage girls are idiots.
Yeah, especially that one. She was a dickhead.
Yeah, but, you know, I've been there. We all did that. Me and my friends used to do Ouija boards. We would toy with these stupid things because it felt a bit dangerous, a little bit taboo.
Yeah.
So I get it, but I loved the fact that it was 5 girls and they were all standing there saying it, and then the one non-white girl goes, nah, fuck this,
Yeah.
and leaves.
Yeah.
And it's just the 4 white girls.
Super intentional. But
Yeah.
but the fact is that it's shown to us that they've been bullying a black girl that is in the toilet, who I assume survives this movie.
I hope so,
yeah,
because she's a Bad Brains fan, judging from the patches on her bag, which makes her the coolest person in this movie.
Well, she's super cool and she's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's those 4 kids, those 4 kids that get it. But the main one, she was in the art gallery earlier.
She was.
And you've got to be paying attention. But like for me especially, I think it's only because they zoomed in on the logo on her bag.
Yeah, because you have face blindness.
Yeah. So it's interesting that when she was at the art gallery, she was not interested in any of the artwork at all.
Well, the only way she engaged with Anthony's piece was to take a selfie in the mirror.
But that was my point. She was attracted. She hated all of the art, but she was drawn to the mirror. Oh, fucking shock. And then in the bathroom, she's looking at herself in the mirror again.
Yeah.
And it's super kind of throwaway, blink and you'll miss it. And it's quite subtle, but it is a commentary on, I guess, the vanity of youth and that kind of generation, and, you know, what's behind the mirror. And quite literally in the art gallery, obviously you open the mirror and there's Anthony's artwork in there, which was his artwork's very direct. And I think it probably improves as the movie goes on.
I would say so. I'm not a big fan of the artwork at the start, I'll be honest.
Well, it's very...
I don't want to badmouth it because it was obviously created for the film by real artists, and art is completely subjective. I don't get a lot of modern art. I never have. I appreciate fine art because I understand the skill behind it, but modern art often leaves me cold.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, like you say, the way his skill sort of seems to improve as the movie wears on.
Yeah.
As he's almost like in a fugue state.
Yeah, literally. And I think I didn't really notice, I didn't have a problem with his art at the start of the movie. I thought it was fine. They're telling you, they're not subtle about telling you that it's too direct. I think a couple of people even say that in the movie. Brianna and the art critic are like, it's way too direct. And more cynically from the art critic, because she's like, well, we can't make money from this because, you know.
Yeah.
And she soon changes her tune.
But she's super derogatory about saying that artists are the ones who are responsible for gentrification and not the government and white people, which is very backwards.
Yeah, and the language that she uses is telling as well, because she says you people.
Yeah.
And Anthony goes, what do you mean? And she goes, well, artists. But she meant it like, I'm going to say this thing because I feel emboldened. And probably feel she does have power over him in that situation because she's an art critic. And
they can make or break careers.
Impress her. So she's just, I feel like that character's a scumbag, and she's just kind of doing something to get one over on somebody, to feel power or something.
Yeah, because she's only interested when there's a tragedy, and she can coast on the fact that his name's in the press.
Oh, she comes fucking crawling back, doesn't she? She's like, your art shit. And then the second that there's a murder, she's like, I love what you've done, actually. And even more so, this time watching it, I was like, ugh, what a dickhead. Oh, let's make some money. We can make money out of it now, can we? Now I'm interested. But that is, again, it's super...
It's pretty on the nose,
It's very on the nose. But I feel like even in this movie, they are quite... Then this is not a subtle film. This is not a film that you watch. I think there are subtleties in it, and you can go as deep as you like, and there's really a lot of nice details in it, but you could watch it without analysing it too much, and you know exactly what it is, which is one thing that I like about it.
I think it strikes the balance really well. It doesn't feel like it's beating you around the head with the point either. No, it's obvious, like you say, but...
Yeah, but but you could just enjoy it, I think, as a 90-minute kind of horror movie as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Talking about the subtlety, there's a bunch of stuff in here that I think you wouldn't necessarily pick up. Like when Anthony goes to the library to check out Helen's thesis and hear her tapes, which is the only way that Virginia Madsen actually returns to the cast, is with the audio recordings.
It's her voice. Is it actually her voice?
It is, yeah.
Okay. It's a Sarah Connor Terminator Salvation situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
You find a way to relate everything back to robots, don't you? God.
Yeah. The way I was remembering Daniel Robitaille's name is Daniel
Robot. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I watched a YouTube video earlier and they kept saying Daniel Robitaille and it was really bothering me.
But do you know what? When I hear that, I think, oh, fair play. You're at least you're reading.
Yeah. You're an idiot, but a literate one.
Well, no, probably cleverer than me, but that's not difficult. Yeah, so Helen Lyle recording.
Yeah, and he goes to the library and the woman, the white blonde lady, much like Helen herself, behind the counter is super flustered, as you would be.
I'd be flustered, man, if
that man and his
coming up to me.
broad shoulders turned up and even in that toque.
He wears it well.
He does. But she says something under her breath as he's like walking away because she's super flustered and kind of bends down and she talks about something about true crime. And I'm just like, that is the stereotype, isn't it? Like middle-aged white women. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I'm a middle-aged white woman who's obsessed with true crime.
Yeah.
I am a cliche, but it's fun little stuff like that as well that tickled me.
Yeah. Directly after that, is that when he goes into the elevator and it's the mirrored elevator, mirrored on all. And I don't know, thinking, how did they fucking film this for a start?
Yeah, really clever.
Yeah,
and an
like
infinity mirror.
Isn't there a mirror, infinity mirror scene in Us as well?
Yeah, in the house,
House of a Thousand Mirrors.
Yeah, let's call it that.
Yeah, I'm always super impressed by those sorts of scenes. And I guess he's been bitten by that point, hadn't he? And
his hand's gone proper manky.
Yeah. So
which is, to me, an indictment of the US medical system, because I think anyone in their right mind would have got that checked out much sooner. But I guess in the States, it's like, I could hope it goes away, or I could be saddled with a $3,000 medical bill.
Yeah. We've got this shiny new apartment to pay for now, haven't we?
Yeah.
Although it's in Cabrini Green, so it's probably quite cheap. They get in cheap rent for a few years, and then we're just going to get the right people in, and then we're going to put the rents up.
As they say,
the gentrification angle. I really enjoy all that stuff and the conversations they have about all of that as well.
I really enjoyed Brianna's brother, Nathan Stewart Jarrett, and his boyfriend.
I enjoy them as characters.
Yeah. They were some welcome kind of comic relief for me.
True. Yeah, I can see why they're there. I was going to say they're maybe the least necessary characters.
But he's the one who relays the story to them near the beginning.
True. Okay, listen, we've been talking for a while now, so I'm going to tell you what my main issue with this film is.
Okay.
And it relates to that. So I think that I really enjoy all of the characters in this. Well, some of them are twats. And I'm glad that they die horrifically.
You can enjoy them whilst they're being twats. That's fine.
I enjoy them when they've got holes in them.
Yeah.
But then I think, and I enjoy the brother character and his partner as well. I think they're interesting characters. Not in it a lot, but some light comic relief, which is probably why they're there. But for me, I really think that we could have had more Coleman Domingo in there. And I understand that it's a short movie. It's a 90-minute movie. You've got to be breezy and economical, and it was. But I think maybe we could have combined that Coleman. Maybe he was closer to the family. Maybe they were already a unit. We could have had him in it more, explaining more of his side of things. Because I feel like when we get to the third act, I feel like there's maybe some scenes missing from Act 2 to Act 3. And all of a sudden, William Burke just becomes the villain, I guess, the main baddie. And I would have enjoyed more of him in it so that I could have seen either the progression or not necessarily seen the change come in, but it felt like there was more of his character.
I get what you're saying, but I'm going to disagree. Well, I'm gonna meet you halfway.
I don't give a shit if you agree with me or not.
I'm gonna put an olive branch out and I'll meet you halfway.
I'm gonna piss on your olive branch, set fire to it.
Rude.
Sorry.
Please I'm gonna set my hive of bees on you.
Well, not the bees.
Yes, the bees. I agree that there isn't enough Coleman Domingo. I agree with that part. I think some of his progression towards the end does feel a bit undercooked, which leads me to another problem that I'll talk about in a second. But as for the brother and the boyfriend, I really enjoyed their inclusion because although they're the ones that kind of the first time we hear about the legend is when he's telling them, they're the two characters who survive because they're not stupid enough to say Candyman's name in the mirror.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that.
Yeah. Because
they weren't just fodder. And the gay characters survived.
Yes, there is that. I think, as I said, enjoyed their characters. For me, it's okay, if we're going to keep this a lean 90 minutes, I need more from the main villain. I need more to understand why he's doing the things that he's doing.
Okay.
And just have more of on-screen time. And the way for me to do that would be to maybe combine some characters. However, if they were going to add 15 minutes and make it 1 hour 45, which is still pretty snappy these days and quite easy, keep those characters in. I enjoyed them. And then let's have 10 more minutes of Coleman going to a dinner party and maybe they're all talking about Candymans and things like that. I don't know.
I get it. I understand what you're saying. If we're going to add 15 minutes, I would like a few of those minutes to be dedicated to Brianna's backstory, because my other issue is that it felt like the stuff with her father was a little bit undercooked. I appreciated it more the second time.
Yeah.
On like subsequent viewings, I appreciated it more. It felt like an afterthought the first time, because we get this one scene of her as a child and her father's sort of tragic end and her connection to these tortured artist types, but then it's not really revisited. It does make sense in the context of her character and how her arc ends, but I would have liked a little bit more focus on that.
See, I think if we're adding more Coleman and we're keeping brother and partner, and we want more from Brianna's childhood.
Just another minute.
I think, another minute. Okay.
That would do, yeah.
I was going to say we're probably adding another 15 minutes and making it a 2-hour movie. But again, fine with that.
I would watch a 2-hour cut of this in a heartbeat.
But that's not to say that I don't love this for the runtime. Like, I have quite a complicated relationship with this, because on the one hand, I think it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And I'll watch it any time. And probably mostly because it's 90 minutes and it's breezy and you can enjoy it on a surface level if you want.
Is that not the best compliment you can give a film, though? Like, I think this is a masterpiece, and I want more of it.
100%, yeah, 100%. And but that's not to say that if these things were included, that it would be any better. Probably, what the fuck do I know? Like, it would have made it worse. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's just how I felt while I was watching it. And I feel like with the William Burke stuff, also there's a lot of threads there in his past where his sister is also killed by the Candyman because she summons him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of threads hanging here that to tackle them all in a satisfying way in 90 minutes, I just think is impossible. So I think this is a good a movie as you can get for a 90-minute sequel.
Yeah.
That's also kind of a reboot or retelling if you are not familiar with Candyman.
I have another very minor complaint that I want to get off my chest.
Not enough topless Yahya.
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a given, obviously. No, I wish they hadn't listed Vanessa Williams in the opening credits.
Well, yeah, agreed.
I know she was in the trailer, but I wished that had been a surprise.
Did you, while you're watching it, did you know that? So you knew she was going to be in it. Did you know that she was going to be Anthony's mother?
No.
So
until he went to the hospital.
Did you? During the movie, did it click to you that he was called Anthony and also the baby in the original was called Anthony?
Not immediately, but yes.
But during the movie?
Yeah.
So you did at one point go, he's the baby.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But only because I'm such a big fan of the original. I don't think like a more casual viewer of these movies would necessarily do the same.
I don't, it's been a few years since my first time viewing of this and I don't really remember, but I don't think I put that together.
Do you know Anthony McCoy's name is said exactly 5 times in this movie?
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. They're trying to throw you, though, in the movie, I think, because a few times they refer to him as Tony and Tone. They're like, oi, Tone. Where are you going to get that art to me or what, Tone?
I don't remember Danny Dyer being in this movie.
God, if he was in it, he would have had a hook in his Achilles heel and that would have been fine with me.
We can only hope.
Yeah. Was Tony Todd's name in the credits for this?
I don't believe so, no, because I just about shit myself when he appeared at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was not, I'm so grateful that hadn't been spoiled for me.
Yeah.
And I'm such a predictable mark. I'm such an obvious fan of these movies. I can see why a lot of people would have been like, oh, for fuck's sake, this is too cheesy. Like, I get it, it's just fan service. But when I saw the bees sort of give way to de-aged Tony Todd, I just was like, oh my God. Yeah. I was so excited.
I see, for me, that it's not fan service. I mean, it is fan service
in a
because
way.
It's pleasing to you. You're a fan. You were pleased.
I was very pleased.
You. Quite literally, it's there to please people.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for. but it doesn't feel like it for me because what they do with the story, they enhance the original, they add to it, they add to the lore. They're telling you there are many, many candy people, and if we're including Helen, and their stories are forgotten and we need to remember them.
Yeah.
So to have him come back for the final frame is almost necessary. I don't think this film hits quite the way that it should if you don't.
They've gone all in with the hive element. So yes, absolutely, they needed him as well.
But also, it's a genius move fiscally from a studio cynical.
Yeah,
let's make some sequels hat on. They can make Candyman sequels to the fucking cows come home if they want, because they can focus in on any number of Candymen
and women and non-binary people.
Any story that they want to focus on, they can do. They're not going to be tied to any one thing. And I think that's just genius. I think this is super interesting and cleverly made film from a lot of angles.
Should we talk about the end then?
Let's talk about the end. Let's talk about how fucking beautiful it looks at the end.
Can I just?
Or are you going? Where are you going from?
What I want to know is, at what point did you start to think that William Burke, or Billy Boy, was a little bit sketchy?
Not until then, I don't think, because there just wasn't enough of him. I mean, it should have been obvious when he was in the laundromat and we saw him reading Clive Barker. He's reading a Clive Barker book.
He's reading Weave World,
Weave World, yeah. But
man of good taste.
I don't think, for me, I realised that he was doing a dirty until the very end.
Right, okay.
And maybe that's my problem. Maybe it would have been nicer to have more of him to see his either change or his motivations a little bit more.
Yeah, the clues were very, very, very subtle. Very subtle.
They were initially, and then at the end he's just like...
Yeah.
Okay.
But stuff like there are sort of things to sort of clue you in that he's not quite on the level. Taking it back to Vanessa Williams again, when she's sort of telling Anthony about how we all agreed to keep it quiet. Everybody in Cabrini Green knows, like, you don't speak of him. The fact that Coleman Domingo was just like going around going, "Hey, Candyman, you heard about Candyman? Let me tell you about Candyman." Should have been like a bit of a giveaway because he's,
true,
wanting to keep the legend alive, obviously.
Yeah, true. I mean, he is wanting to keep the legend alive, and also I think for me, because I was thinking when I was watching it, why is he's committing this horrible act on this young guy who's cutting his arm off? Why is he doing this?
He's got an arm off.
He's got an arm off, but I've been thinking about it, and it's because I guess because the Helen story was so widely remembered, in my opinion, he is trying to
bring it back to its roots, take the power back,
take the power back. He wants. He's like, no, fucking Candyman is a black story that belongs to, rightly or wrongly, pain, trauma. That's ours. Why are we fucking talking about this white woman? I think when we get to that point at the end of it, when Brianna turns up, doesn't she? Because she's looking for Anthony, who's scarpered after after he spoke to his mum, he just sort of disappeared a bit. I think for me, it's between when he spoke to his mum and the third act. I feel like there's stuff missing from there.
I can see that. Because
it just gets to that third act. I'm like, oh, we're here.
It's wrapped up too quick, yeah.
But yeah, when Brianna turns up, she finds out that William Burke is...
bit of a wrong-un.
Bit of a baddie, bit of a bad guy.
Trying to reclaim Candyman as a spirit of vengeance.
Yep. But she realizes to go to she figures out to go to the laundromat because there's a pen. So he must be there because he's got a pen. But she takes the pen with her as well. Yeah. Which is what she uses to shank Burke.
Proving that the pen is mightier than the sword.
The pen is mightier than the sword.
I don't think that's what they had in mind, whoever coined that phrase. But.
No, but something written, word, language, important, communication, something. But also I'm going to stab you with it. It can be a weapon. It can be, Yep. Yeah, she shanks him with the pen, but not before he's phoned the police. Yeah. And said, here comes
the swarm.
Here's a hook man here. He's got a handoff. Here comes the swarm. And so the police are on their way. She's legging it. She shanks William Burke. Anthony turns up again. And there's that beautiful scene in that building where Anthony's laying down.
The red and the blue lights flashing and creating the silhouettes. And so, oh my God.
He's being cradled by Brianna. And then there's the flashing lights with the graffiti and the candy-coloured graffiti, if you will. And that is, I love that scene. I think that is so beautiful. And even as we touched on earlier, that the police come in, they barge their way in, and then there's gunfire, and you know what's fucking going on,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't need to see it. And it's way more impactful.
I agree.
For me,
I agree. Yeah.
If I'd have seen that, I don't know. It's not going to hit the same.
I mean, Candyman is such a tragic figure anyway.
Yeah.
As soon as you learn of Daniel Robitaille's backstory, it's so painful and tragic and just unimaginable. And we get a repetition of that with Anthony's character. So yeah, we absolutely don't need to see it to feel what Brianna must feel, and heartbreaking.
Yeah, the police kind of take Brianna. They put her in a car and say, "We didn't murder him, did we? You've got to say that, otherwise we're going to fit you up and we're going to frame you and you're going to go to prison." But she looks in the mirror and she summons old mate.
I really enjoyed that.
Reluctantly. And also that's well done, because she's not doing that at the start of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That is her last...
that's a Hail Mary.
She's not doing that lightly. She's likely either going to go to prison or have to suffer the knowledge that she's not been honest about what happened that day. Who knows where she would have gone. But yeah, and then the final kills where he's just taking out the police force is just, I don't know, man. I enjoyed that a lot, and I bet a lot of people really got a lot of catharsis. Maybe it might be a good word to use there, because horror in general can be quite a cathartic experience for people, right?
Absolutely,
and
yes.
What if not cathartic is Candyman for the black community? And I'm not part of that community, so I can't say, but from what I've heard people like Jordan Peele, Nia DaCosta, and people talk about it, and Candyman belongs to them and it's their story. So I just feel like, I don't know, if you're part of that community, part of that culture, it must be kind of nice to see some people with badges on getting shanked sometimes.
Yeah, and I feel like it's important to say, as we did during our Cops season 1, we're not here to shit on the police force as a whole.
No.
But you're only as good as your weakest members, so to speak.
Yeah.
So while there are bad apples, we know how that phrase ends.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bad seeds do need to be not necessarily terminated with a hooked hand, but
But there's too many of these stories.
Yeah.
Still fucking now. These things are still happening, and
you can't even ignore it if you try.
People, fucking idiots that complain about woke culture will be going, "Oh, we do hear about it all the time." Matter. But I could guarantee you there's shit happening that we don't fucking hear about.
Oh, of course.
We only hear about probably a couple of things that get through that can't be silenced or whatever. I don't know. Bringing it back to Cops again with Fruitvale Station, there's that story, and there's just, they're endless. They're never ending. So
not all cops, but some, and that's bad.
Yes.
So call it out, and yes, allow the black community to have their fucking catharsis.
Yep.
I think it's poetic.
That's where I was
great.
coming from. It must be quite cathartic in maybe the same way that a sexual assault revenge movie could be, not definitely.
Yeah.
But for some people,
some people could be super triggering,
cathartic.
But yes, some people do get catharsis from those movies.
And everyone's different, and they respond to things differently.
I think it was handled pretty well here, and quite sensitively.
Yeah.
So yeah, big thumbs up.
I think this film's just fucking great. I think it's a gnat's cock away from a masterpiece. But if we're talking about changing the things that I kind of said that I would change, maybe it's not as enjoyable. Maybe it's not a 90-minute breezy, I'd say fun, but almost fun. It's quite funny, like you say. It's enjoyable.
It definitely has moments.
It
has moments of brevity. It's really hard to say it's fun though, with the gravity of some of the stuff it deals with, like the socio-political stuff, the racism. It's hard to call it fun.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is breezy. It's pacey. There is a lot about it that is fun. I can't imagine a time where I wouldn't just happily stick this on and watch it.
Yeah.
Like whenever.
Are you putting the original on, or are you putting this on? Go right now.
Oh, are you really going to make me choose original?
Okay.
It has to be the original.
Yep.
But the original to me is a 5-star perfect movie. This is a 4.5-star movie. And I'm stingy as fuck. So I do not dole out 4.5 stars willy-nilly.
What is Farewell to the Flesh? What stars is that?
That might be a 2.5.
Yeah?
I'm not a fan of the 2 that came in the 90s,
Yeah.
the 95 and 99 ones.
Yeah.
99 especially, just ugh.
Well, you own it, so I'm looking at it right now. It's on DVD over
because
there.
I'm a completist.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking easy mark, I told you.
So there are 4 Candyman movies now.
Yeah.
Will there be a 5th? Has there been any rumblings of that?
Not that I've heard.
I haven't looked it up, actually.
If it was handled by the right people, I'd be happy to watch it, though.
If Nia's back, fucking sign me up.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm probably...
If the entire creative team of this come back, take my money.
I'll probably watch it, whoever's made it, because we've got that cinema pass, so we see everything. But the merits of this one, I think I would see it no matter what. Does it need a sequel? That's my next question.
I think there's more to explore.
Agreed.
I think there's some new stuff in here that we hadn't seen before. I really enjoy the fact that for the most of the runtime, you only see Candyman in the mirror, which hadn't really been explored before. And a lot of people sort of conjecture that is to do with the fact that because he's not spoken about anymore, he's weakened. And that when he appears at the end and does his gravelly tell everyone, that's kind of him reclaiming his power, thanks to Bill Burke.
Yeah, so you could look at this as the setup movie, really. That's kind of where I was coming from, and that's why I asked you if this needs a sequel, because in my opinion, it doesn't need one, but I think it would be fucking great if it had one, because I feel like this movie has done a lot of heavy lifting, and I feel like a sequel, we can just get straight into it, and we can do some gnarly shit.
As long as they brought some other fresh ideas, yeah,
of course,
I would be on board.
You always want that, but I feel like this is a perfect setup movie. It's a perfect sequel to a 30-year-old movie, and it's a perfect setup for more sequels for many reasons. As I said, there's the hive element. Even if you don't want to stick with, if you can't afford Yahya Abdul-Mateen because he's got to pay for all that protein, and he's charging too much money, and you want to do a different story, guess what? You can do it because you've introduced the hive element. It's genius.
Yeah. My only hope is that if they do it, that they don't run out of creative ideas, because there are so many, like, it's riddled with insanely creative decisions. Something that we didn't even talk about, the opening. Like, the opening of the original was all aerial shots of Chicago, and this was shots looking up from the street up.
Yeah.
It's just near perfection, as you say.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, I fucking love this movie, man. I think it's great.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay, so shall we announce what we're doing for the next episode?
I'll let you do it, because this is...
Are we done with Candyman? Or, like, is there anything else you want to hit? I don't want to end it in case there's anything else you want to say, because I know how much you're a fan of this character.
I'll keep Stom now, but I will insist that we revisit the original at some point.
Yeah, okay. We haven't watched it together yet, so we should do.
That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, it's Christmas 3 months ago, so we could, okay, cool. So on that then, yes, next episode.
This is all you, baby.
Sticking with 2021, I completely accidentally 2 movies that came out in 2021 in a row.
Couldn't be more different.
It's Folklore. Remember in the first episode of our Folklore season, we mentioned that Chris Finch, Ralph,
and Kate Dickey.
Ralph Ineson and Kate Dickey would be reappearing further down the line. Well, guess what? It's this one. I'm going to give you 2 seconds to guess what it is. Folklore 2021, Kate Dickey, Ralph Ineson. What is it? It's The Green Knight. Right?
Winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah.